Hi there, let's chat about the happenings in this latest episode of 90 Day Fiancé. We're in season 10, episode 2. So if you're a fan of the show, go ahead and subscribe and then also let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments. So in this episode, we see a continuation of Ashley and her panic attack. She finally arrives at the airport and we see her in the parking lot, and her sister Sienna meets her there. And so they're doing their breathing exercises and getting her to calm down. And then they make their way to baggage claim. So she didn't know if Manuel, which we already knew this from the last episode, whether he made his connection or even his flight. So anyway, she makes it there and we see Manuel comes down the steps, and this was really nice. I'm like, oh, I got really teary-eyed because when he finally appeared, she ran to him and they hugged and he was telling her little things in Spanish. It was so cute. That was a really nice scene with them. And so he says he has 90 days to marry, and he asked immigration if he could get 120 and they said no. It was funny. He seems to have a nice personality from what I see so far, like really laid back. He doesn't seem to take things too seriously, but he's so funny. So he was talking also about the flight, as this is his first time flying, and so he's a little scared in the air. So that was funny. When they get to Ashley's place, he meets the dog, which is Rico Suave, and the cat. What's the cat's name? Lyra or something? I don't remember. So as we see where he meets the cat, he sees the cat, he's looking at the cat, and we see the cat just walk away with its tail in the air. Typical cat with an attitude. It just walked off, like, I don't care, I'm not impressed. And Manuel said he wasn't really a fan of cats either. So she proceeds to give him a tour of the place. So she sees everything, then they finally make it to the bedroom. When they go to the bedroom, the dog gets on the bed, and so he says something to the effect of, like, you know, the dog, she's going to have to go outside shortly. And so Ashley didn't really like that, and then he notices that there was no door in the room. He's like, what happened to the door? She just has like a curtain rod with the panels there. So the dog can just come right in here. He was not liking that at all. He was like, I'm putting a door in here tomorrow. So he really didn't like the fact that the dog was on the bed and the fact that there was no privacy in the room with the door missing. And so, you know, she's just looking like she's not liking all these criticisms and these demands. But I myself am a dog person, and I can understand where Manuel is coming from. I do not want a dog in my bed. Love them to death, but they're not going to be in my bed. So because of these things with the dog, he's like, I think I'm going to be sleeping on the couch. And she's like, no, you're not sleeping on the couch. So he said that he doesn't mind the dog having, you know, being inside, but there's a time and place for everything. The dog doesn't need to be in the bed all the time. And I don't think he wants to sleep with the dog in the bed. So he's more of an old-fashioned type of person. So I could see this being, you know, creating some issues, but I feel like with some compromise, things can work out. But she's saying that the dog can sleep wherever he wants. And so she says that Manuel is used to telling people what to do, and, you know, she doesn't really like that. But I feel like, you know, it's not an unreasonable demand, but this is something that they need to talk through, or maybe they should have already talked about the fact that she has a dog and the situation with the dog in the house. So she is crying and she's upset because they're having this argument, and she says the dog is sleeping in the bed with them, and she leaves the room. So, you know, he says that, you know, if she wants him to be her partner, then she can't make all the decisions, which I agree with. Not because he's coming into her house doesn't mean that he has to accept everything that she says. And so the fact that, you know, he's having these criticisms and wanting to change things pretty much as soon as he gets there, I think maybe that, you know, maybe the cause of the problem, because he's coming off a little bit bossy. But what he's asking for, I don't believe is unreasonable, you know, not to have the dog in the bed. So he doesn't feel like, you know, I kind of agree with him. And I think the dog in the bed thing depends on where you grew up or how you grew up. And because people here, you know, loves having the dog in the bed or don't mind, doesn't mean other people are okay with that. So that's something that they should have talked about before, but I don't think it's something that they couldn't work through. So I'm just going to go through the couples one by one just to keep their storylines together. So next we see, she's saying now that he's living with a witch, I guess he needs to know about the rituals or whatever. So we see where she goes to light a thingy that she needs to do before dinner. She had ordered takeout. So he says that witches are evil. And she says, she's mentioning, things about herself that, am I evil? She does. And he says no, but, in his home country, people who are witches do harm to people, but he knows that she's not evil. But the fact that, she's calling herself a witch, he doesn't think that she's a witch based on his understanding of what a witch is, because witches cast spells and witches do harm. So he asks if she knows what the word witch means. And so he goes onto his phone and looks up the definition on the internet and he reads it to her. And so I'm kind of agreeing with Manuel on this one. Maybe witch is not the right word to describe herself or what she does, because she does like energy readings and tarot card readings, and I don't know what else she does. But she doesn't do spells. So I feel like it's a problem with the word per se, and he doesn't really have a problem with what she does. But just the fact that they don't agree on the word witch to describe what she does. So as they're going back and forth, because she says she's a witch, he's saying she's not. She started getting defensive and cut him off, saying, is there anything else? Anything else? And then she ended up leaving the room, saying that she needed some air. And so Manuel's just sitting there with the dog. And then at one point we see where he's eating his food and she's outside. So she's venting to, I guess, the production team, and that she's alluding to the fact that she feels like he's judging her and she shouldn't feel judged by her partner, and he's not accepting of what she does. But I don't think that he's judging her. I feel like he accepts what she does. I think they just have a different understanding and definition of what a witch is. And so that's what the argument is about, not necessarily about the fact of what she does. So hopefully they can get to the bottom of this and talk this through a little bit more. And she can understand where he's coming from and realize that it's really not about, the things that she do in her capacity as a quote unquote witch. So the next couple we're going to talk about is Nikki and Igor. Igor, I think is how he says his name. So we see where Nikki's mom came over. Her mom's name is Myrna, I think her name was. I hope I got that right. And she says that her mom is supportive of her relationship with Igor, and but she didn't like him the first time around. She felt like, she should have sent him packing. But now she's the one who's hopeful and have a positive outlook on the relationship, whereas now she's doubtful just because things just have been a little bit weird with them, and so she's having some doubts. She said that her mom initially was not supportive of her when she told her that she wanted to transition to a boy, and so they didn't talk. I think this happened around the time that she was 17. And so between the ages of 17 and 19, they hadn't talked at all. And so, now she says that her mom loves and accepts her. And, sometimes these things take time, which, unfortunately, that's just how it is sometimes, especially, with older folks and religious folks. Sometimes they don't take too kindly to these things. And it's not necessarily that they don't love their child. They just don't like what their child is doing. So we see where her mom says that, she fears for her safety and her feelings and being accepted in Moldova as a trans woman. She's also worried about how the parents will react as well. Nikki is worried about how the parents will react. And her mom, we see where her mom was emotional regarding the fact that when Nikki wanted to transition, that she wasn't there for her. And so that is something that she regrets tremendously. Unfortunately, she can't really change the past, but now they have a great relationship, which is good because some people don't really have that even years after the fact. So Nikki hasn't seen Igor in 9 months, and so she's going to be going to Moldova for 3 weeks. Justin is getting pushback. She says Justin is getting pushback from his friends, and so she's really sad about that for him. And her mom says that the fact that he's revealing that she's trans to her family and friends means that he loves her, but maybe he's a bit apprehensive about the whole thing and maybe just scared. But her mom tells her that the fact that the parents want to see her also is a positive sign, and for her to think positive about the whole thing. Back in Moldova, we see Igor at the park. He's doing his workout. He says fitness is a part of his life and it kind of helped him de-stress. Nikki's supposed to be arriving there tomorrow, and so he's kind of worried. He's worried about her safety, especially because she draws so much attention with how she looks and her makeup, how she dresses. So he's a little bit worried about that. And I think that in the prior episode that he had mentioned something about, her toning it down a little bit. So he's kind of worried about that because it's more of a conservative society where he lives. And so he just wants her to be safe and not, to be like perceived as like a walk-in circus, basically. So he is nervous. And we see where he meets up with his friend Sergey. And so he says Sergey knows everything and accepts him, but he's still nervous. We see where Sergey asks if he's going to introduce Nikki to his parents, and he said he already did. And then he asked about, his mom. Did he tell his mom that she was trans? And he said yes. So he said he had told his mom not so long ago. And so Sergey was, shocked to hear about the whole trans thing, and so he can only imagine how shocked the mom was. Sergey said he had never met a trans person and that they don't really have them there, so it's kind of hard for him to understand. And so they also talk about the last time, what happened. What happened when, with the relationship, he said that he had ran when he heard that she was trans. And then in the years that had gone by, they had gotten friendly again, and he began to reevaluate the place that Nikki has in his life. And so, they had gotten closer again. So he worries about whether people will accept her. Yes, they see a pretty woman on the outside, but how would she be received knowing that she's trans? We find out that he has also lost a lot of good friends because they can't really accept the fact that he's with a trans person. But thankfully, he has Sergey who he can talk to and who's seeming to, be trying to understand the situation. Although he can't really understand or wrap his head around this whole thing, he's there and asking questions and trying to understand and being a support for him. So really, it's probably better to have one good friend versus a bunch of folks who disappear on you, when you need support. But it's kind of still sad, to have people that he thought were friends to, not be there when he needs support. So, I can understand the friends honoring their beliefs, as far as the whole trans thing, changing your gender and everything. So it's a tough situation because, they have to honor what they believe in. And then, when it's conflicting with what their friend is doing, it's kind of hard. So it's a tough situation. But the only way that they can see if they can fit into each other's lives is to take the next step, which is what Igor is doing. And so he says he'll see, how it all works out. All right, so on to the next couple. So in this episode, we see where Sophie's at the airport. She's heading to the U.S. to meet Rob. Meanwhile, we see Rob is cleaning and organizing his trunk. It looks like he has a sports car, which has a really tiny trunk. So he says hopefully that her stuff will fit in there as well, which It would be very interesting to see. Doesn't look like all the stuff that she has will fit, but we'll see. So anyway, when he says that when they decided to get engaged, that he didn't, there really wasn't a proposal or a ring, so to speak. So now he's trying to do a redo. And she says, she finally gets to the U.S. and she says that, it's been 25 hours in the same outfit. I think she had a couple connections and now she's all sweaty and she says she smells bad. It's kind of hilarious. I don't know why she didn't change in the bathroom, but she didn't. And then so we see where she finally comes out and she sees Rob, and so she's rolling her stuff towards him, and he says, "Stop." And he starts busting out his dance moves, and she's like, "I'm so confused. What's going on here?" He's doing his little dance routine, but I was wondering, like, who is playing the music? Because they made it seem like as though he came there by himself, but who was cueing the music? Anyway, she seems to like it. I don't know. But he was happy. It was received well, apparently. And so she was happy. He gave the flowers. But at that point, when he first saw her, he didn't give her the ring. But right when they were about to exit the building, the airport, he gets down on one knee and asked, and gave her the ring. Did he say, "Will you marry me?" I think maybe I can't recall correctly. I don't want to say that he did. But it was just out of nowhere. It was not like, I don't know. It was a lackluster proposal to me. It was just so random. But anyway, she, says yes eventually. But she says that she was jet lagged and whatever. But she said in the confessional she wasn't sure why this needed to be done at the airport. And he says, well, he had to get her to say yes before she saw LA and before she got her citizenship and all that. And I'm like, huh? Like, there's no need to have to do it right now. And when they need to be married anyway to get the citizenship, I mean, he wasn't really making sense. But okay, I get that he was trying to make an impression or make, this big gesture. But, I don't know. Came off lackluster to me, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you thought about this whole thing that he did at the airport. So anyway, they entered the elevator at the airport and they got stuck. Apparently, Rob was hitting the buttons more than once, and so it got stuck. So they were in this tight little elevator bickering about who got it stuck because he kept hitting the buttons. And so then she was saying she's claustrophobic, she needs to get out. And then he's like, well, there's nothing I can do. So eventually they called this number in the elevator and they were able to get it unlocked for them. They were able to get out. So, so then after they got out, he left to go get the car. She goes back up in the elevator to meet on the level that he was parked at. And they were still bickering a little bit over the elevator. And so he says that the argument over the elevator was kind of killing his vibes because she's, I guess he feels like she should be in a good mood and everything that he's done. But now because of the bickering, he's just, not feeling a positive vibe. Anyway, she says she was jet lagged. She's tired. She's cranky. So, I guess it is what it is. Anyway, so we got to the car. I'm surprised that her stuff fit, but they did. And so they're driving down the neighborhood, and Sophie's like, concerned about her safety. She doesn't feel like the neighborhood's safe, but Rob is kind of downplaying the safety of the neighborhood, saying that, he's only heard one gunshot, but at the same time, we see where there's a bunch of police vehicles. It seems like there's some kind of crime going on or some kind of chase. Something's going on in the neighborhood. You could hear sirens, but he's saying, well, it's not on my street. It's a different street over. And so Sophie's claiming that there's no guns in England. There's no gun crime. She's not used to this, which is a gross exaggeration. Come on. You could say like you don't feel safe, or the things that she's heard about Inglewood makes her feel like it's not safe because of the violence and all that. But to say that there's no gun crime, no shootings in England, I don't believe that. Anyway, so they finally get to the house, and bless her heart, she's trying to be excited about the changes that he's made. So upon entering, there's a fly net by the door. So she's like, oh, wow, a fly net. And so he's excited. He's asking her if she noticed anything different. And so she didn't initially, but I guess he got her a desk. And I guess he wants them to game or something like that. There's a dresser in the corner. And apparently he had painted the walls. He's saying that there aren't any smudges anymore compared to the last time. And so it's still not as nice as what Sophie's used to, because her apartment, she has a view. It's really nice. It's bright. And above everything else, really clean, she says. So apparently his place is not that clean. I mean, his place is a huge downgrade to what she's used to. But, I mean, she's been there before and she knows what it is. So, I mean, she really doesn't have a whole lot of place to complain because, you know, she knows what the situation is and what he has. And so, I guess she's accepting of this. She says that, you know, she hopes that this will be just temporary for her, considering that she's going to be living here, and they'll find a better place and a better neighborhood. And so definitely I can understand that, because if there's gunshots flying in the neighborhood, that's not a good place to be. He says that he wished he could give her more, but he's trying to stay positive. And then, you know, they went to go sit in the courtyard where he had dinner set up for her, which is kind of nice. And he says they made it. Was it worth it? And so I think there was a little pause there. I just don't know about these two. Their lives are so different. And I just don't feel like that Rob is really ready for marriage. He doesn't have anything. I think they should just date, and she comes here for a few months and hang out and then go back and live her life until he can get it together. I don't, you know, they're really young. Plus, he is not set up like financially or anything like that to be getting married right now. But let me know what you guys think about this whole situation with Rob. So Jasmine wants to do something different with her hair before she leaves Panama. So she decides to cut her hair and wear her natural hair, because she says that she's been wearing extensions for the last 15 years. And so she decides to wear her hair out. And she says the day before, she really wasn't sure that she would get on the plane. I mean, they had a big blow-up argument, so I guess I can understand that. Gino does not understand her feelings and all she's given up. And so, you know, she was highly upset, but she says that because of the long plane ride and she's had time to think about everything. And so, you know, her anger simmered a little bit since the conversation. So her and Coco are heading to the airport. So they're heading to Detroit with a connection in Atlanta. We've seen her confessional that she's very emotional about the fact that she's leaving her family. And she hopes that things will work out. She hopes that she's doing the right thing. Now we see Gino, who says that, you know, after the fight they got into last night, he was blocked on WhatsApp. And he says that she's supposed to be arriving today, but she hasn't been in touch. So he doesn't know, like, if she's coming, but he's going to be heading to the airport anyway. So similar to the situation with Ashley and Manuel, except for different reasons. So Gino says that she's his soulmate and wishes there was a way to stop the arguments. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe therapy. A wish is not going to stop the arguments. And maybe you guys are not compatible. But therapy would probably be a place to start. Anyway, Yasmin is made it to Detroit, and she's still frustrated with Gino. But anyway, she feels like she's happy to be there because she's saying that Gino is the love of her life. When she finally comes out, they were happy to see each other. They were kissing or whatever. And then Coco started whining from her little thingy, which is kind of funny. She says that he's her soulmate and she loves him, even though sometimes she wants to strangle him a little bit. And she wants them to make a promise that no more fights and that they'll have a new start, which, yeah. They both are a little bit delusional on this point, thinking that if they make a promise that they're not going to fight anymore because they have been fighting. So they need to do something realistic about the fights and also about the way they fight because, everybody's going to have disagreements, but, the way you disagree has a whole lot to do with whether the relationship works or not. So when she arrives, it's very cold. She doesn't like that. She says that this place screams depression. She's kind of funny. She said that she didn't think that God wanted people to live here, but people insisted on living in Michigan. I didn't realize that she had a bit of a sense of humor. I just, since the season started, my first impression of her anyway was just the fighting with Gino. So I was like, oh, okay. She's a little funny. And so they got to Gino's place, and of course, Yasmin is not impressed. Firstly, when she walks in, he's got the Panamanian flag and decorations up there still, which was from when she was approved for her visa. He also has a Panamanian blanket, and so when she walked in, she was upset. Well, her first criticism was that the blanket was upside down, and so this is a sign of disrespect, so she needs to go fix it. Like, what is this? Why is the blanket upside down? Why is the flag upside down? The blanket was a Panamanian flag. She also said the walls were ugly and the place smelled not that great. I guess it smelled like garbage, which, he did have garbage in the trash, but it wasn't smelling like clean. So we see where she opens a cabinet and it's all canned foods, and Gino's apparently hoarding plastic bags. The fridge is full of frozen food and unhealthy stuff. And he's like, this is why your farts smell like the way they do. He pretty much doesn't cook, so it's all unhealthy stuff. And she's like, this got to change. You cannot just eat canned food all the time. In her confessional, she said that the house is worse than she thought, and she doesn't know that if she can stay here, which she hasn't gotten the full house tour yet. So imagine what she's going to think when she gets the full house tour. Later we see Gino spots something on the floor, and he thinks it's dog pee, and Yasmin's like, no, that was there before. And he says, touch it. So she puts her finger in what's on the carpet and smells it, and he's like, oh, snap. It is. And she's like, I'm so sorry, I'll clean it up. So as soon as Coco got there, he had a little present for Gino. So then they went upstairs to see the bedroom and the bathroom. Oh my God. She went in the bathroom, and Gino has used the bathroom and did not flush it. Yasmin is like, unbelievable. Ugh, so nasty. I just wanted to hurl. He was denying that there was, in the toilet, which was, I'm like, seriously? You're an adult. Like, a child you can kind of understand, but an adult, like, number 2 and not flushing the toilet, just gross. Just nasty. Come on. Do we really need to see that? Maybe you should keep some of the grossness to themselves. We didn't really need to see that. But anyway, she finished the tour of the bathroom. It's very dated, but she feels like, the bathroom had some promise. She wants to renovate the whole house. And when they made it to the bedroom, she was asking about, was this bed new? How old is the bed? Did she have it when he was married? He said, no, he got it after he got divorced. And how, there were spots on the sheets, and he was like, well, when he lotions his whole body, he sits on the bed. So apparently there was greasy stains on there, and he's saying it's from the lotion. He also admits that it's due for a wash, and I'm like, oh, how long has those sheets been on the bed, dude? You're supposed to have somebody coming over. You really couldn't change the sheets? Nasty. So she asked if she'd get pregnant if she sit on the sheets. Wow, that was funny. I'm just wondering, though, if they didn't do a tour of the house before she got here. Because, if I were moving to another country, I would want to know, like, where I'm staying, what's there, where would I be, or, I would be curious, even if it's not a video tour, like pictures or something like that. So maybe that wasn't done. So anyway, so now she has, all these complaints about the house. She wants to renovate it. She wants a whole new bedroom set. And of course, Gino is stressing out because he doesn't have any money. He foolishly quit his job, and now he cannot afford all this stuff that she wants. Also, he has not told her that he has quit his job. So this is what has taken place in this episode. I think these are the main points, but let me know if I missed something. Let me know your thoughts of the happenings in this episode. So it looks like the next one is going to be a little bit spicy. I see there were some talks between Rob and Sophie about cheating allegations. And then Yasmin's going to disclose to Gino that she used the money that she was supposed to be using for her wedding. So yeah, I think things are going to get a little bit explosive in the next one. Anyway, let me know your thoughts.